One room, one bed, one night that would change everything. I stared at the hotel receptionist, rain still dripping from my coat. Beside me stood Rachel Bennett, my CEO, the most powerful woman in the company, the person who held my entire career in her hands. "I'm sorry, sir," the receptionist said, her eyes darting between us. "We only have one room left." Outside, the storm howled. Every flight was grounded. Every hotel was fully booked. I was a black single father who lived for my daughter. Rachel was the ice queen who let no one get close. What happened in that room? No one could have predicted it. A few days earlier, I sat in the conference room trying to make myself invisible. It was a skill I had perfected over my time at Wellington Associates. Show up early, work harder than everyone else, and never ask for anything. The morning light cut through the glass walls as Rachel Bennett walked in. The room fell silent. Every step she took seemed to remind people of her position as the youngest CEO in the company's history. Her heels clicked against the marble floor like a metronome counting down to someone's fate. She announced the Ellison project without bothering with greetings. She needed someone to accompany her to Denver for the high-stakes trip. Robert Klein, the CFO, immediately leaned forward. He was the kind of man who had climbed the corporate ladder by stepping on others, and he guarded his position fiercely. "I can arrange for someone from senior management," Robert offered, his eyes deliberately avoiding my corner of the table. "I've already chosen." Rachel's gaze swept across the room and landed on me. "Mr. Thompson, your proposal last quarter saved us a significant amount. I want that kind of thinking in Denver." I felt every head turn toward me, some surprised, some skeptical, a few openly hostile. Robert's jaw tightened. "With all due respect, he doesn't have the experience. There are more suitable candidates." Rachel didn't blink. "I choose people based on ability, Mr. Klein, not seniority, not anything else." The implication hung in the air. I knew what Robert really meant. I had heard it in 1,000 different ways throughout my career. The subtle suggestions that I didn't quite belong, that my promotions were always just out of reach for reasons no one would say out loud. "The flight leaves tomorrow evening," Rachel continued, already moving toward the door. "Don't be late." That night, I stood in my daughter's bedroom doorway, watching her arrange her stuffed animals on the bed. Lily was my little girl with her mother's eyes and my stubborn chin. She was the only reason I got out of bed some mornings. "A few days is a long time," Lily said, not looking at me. I sat on the edge of her bed. "I know, baby, but I'll call you every night just like always, promise." She picked up her favorite teddy bear, the one her mother had bought the day she was born, and held it against her chest. I watched her, seeing the shadow of my late wife in every small gesture. "Daddy," Lily said quietly, "are you ever sad?" The question hit me like a fist to the chest. "Why do you ask that?" "Because you don't smile like you used to." She finally looked up at me, her eyes too wise for her age. "In the old pictures with Mommy, you smile different, like you mean it." I pulled her into my arms, burying my face in her hair so she wouldn't see my eyes. It had been some time since the accident, some time of pretending I was okay, of being strong for her, of building walls so high I'd forgotten what it felt like to let someone in. "I smile every time I see you," I whispered. "That's not the same," Lily said. "That's your daddy's smile. I want to see the real one again." I held her tighter, unable to answer. The next evening, I arrived at the airport early, my small suitcase packed. I found Rachel already at the gate, her laptop open, her face illuminated by the screen's blue light. She acknowledged me with a brief nod, nothing more. We sat in silence, separated by empty seats and an ocean of hierarchy. I checked my phone every few minutes, waiting for Lily's nightly video call. My sister was watching her, but it wasn't the same. It was never the same. The first announcement came. The flight to Denver had been delayed due to severe weather conditions. I looked out the window. Dark clouds had swallowed the sky and rain was beginning to hammer against the glass. Soon the delay became a cancellation. The airport descended into chaos. Hundreds of passengers crowded the service desks. their voices rising in frustration. I watched Rachel navigate the crowd, her phone pressed to her ear, her expression unreadable. "Everything's booked," she said when she returned. "Every hotel nearby. I had already checked. We tried several more hotels by phone. The storm had grounded every flight, and thousands of stranded travelers had swept through the city." Finally, Rachel found one room, a small hotel near the airport, the kind of place that didn't show up on the usual booking apps. "One room," she said, her voice flat. "It's all they have." The hotel lobby smelled of old carpet and air freshener. A single receptionist sat behind the desk, looking as exhausted as I felt. "I'm sorry," the young woman said, her eyes darting between us. "We only have one room available, one bed. I can offer extra blankets." She trailed off, clearly uncomfortable with the situation. I felt the weight of it pressing down on me. A black man, a white female, CEO, one hotel room in the middle of the night. I could already hear the whispers that would follow if anyone found out. Rachel stood beside me, her face betraying nothing. She was waiting, I realized, watching to see what I would do. I thought about Lily, about the savings my work had brought the company, about my time of being overlooked, underpaid, and underestimated, about the promise I'd made to my wife on her deathbed that I would give our daughter a better life. This trip could change everything. One successful project with the CEO and doors that had always been closed might finally open. But if I refused, I would spend the night on an airport bench, show up to the meeting, exhausted and unprepared, and watch the opportunity slip through my fingers. Robert's voice echoed in my memory. "He doesn't have the experience." I straightened my shoulders. "I'll take the floor," I said. Rachel's expression flickered, something that might have been surprise or maybe respect. She turned to the receptionist. "We'll take it." The receptionist handed over a single key card, her relief evident. I picked up my suitcase and followed Rachel toward the elevator, acutely aware of every step. My phone buzzed, a text from my sister. "Lily won't sleep. She's waiting for your call." I looked at the elevator doors closing in front of me, at Rachel Bennett standing rigid beside me, at the long night stretching ahead. I had made my choice for Lily, for our future. I just didn't know yet what that choice would cost me. The hotel room was smaller than I had expected. A single queen bed dominated the space, flanked by a worn nightstand and a lamp that flickered when I turned it on. In the corner sat an old sofa, its cushions sagging from years of use. The wallpaper was peeling near the ceiling, and the window rattled with each gust of wind. Rachel walked in first, her heels sinking into the thin carpet. She surveyed the room with the same expression she used in boardrooms, clinical, assessing, revealing nothing. "The bathroom is yours first," she said, already pulling out her laptop. "I have emails to send." I nodded and retreated to the small bathroom, grateful for even a few minutes alone. I splashed cold water on my face and stared at my reflection in the mirror. The fluorescent light made me look older, the shadows under my eyes deeper than usual. "What are you doing here?" I asked myself. One wrong move, one misunderstanding, and everything you've built could disappear. When I emerged, Rachel had positioned herself on the bed, laptop open, typing with focused intensity. She had changed into a simple blouse and slacks, still professional, still armored. I made my way to the sofa. It creaked under my weight, and I could feel a spring pressing against my back. I pulled out my phone. "I need to make a call," I said. "Go ahead." Rachel didn't look up from her screen. I walked to the small balcony, sliding the glass door open just enough to step outside. The rain had softened to a drizzle, but the wind still carried a bitter chill. I pressed Lily's contact and waited. Her face appeared on the screen almost instantly, her eyes bright. "Daddy." "Hey, baby girl." I felt something loosen in my chest at the sight of her. "Why aren't you asleep yet?" "I was waiting for you. Aunt Jessica said the plane didn't fly." "That's right. There's a big storm, so I'm staying at a hotel tonight." Lily's face scrunched up in thought. "Is it a nice hotel?" I glanced back through the glass door at the cramped room. at Rachel's rigid posture on the bed. It's cozy. I drew a picture today. Lily held up a piece of paper to the camera. It's you and me at the park, but I couldn't draw your smile right. What do you mean? I don't know what your real smile looks like anymore. Her voice was matter of fact, the way children deliver truths that cut deeper than any blade. Can you smile so I can see? I forced my lips upward. How's this? Lily shook her head. That's not it. That's your tired smile. I want the one from the pictures with Mommy. Through the glass, I saw Rachel's fingers stop moving on the keyboard. She was listening. I turned back to the screen, my throat tight. Tell you what, I said. When I come home, we'll practice smiling together. Deal? Okay, but you have to tell me a story first. I can't sleep without a story. I leaned against the balcony railing, letting the cold air ground me. Once upon a time, I began. There was a little princess named Lily who lived in a castle made of blankets and pillows. I wove the story from nothing, the way I did every night. A tale of a brave princess and a tired knight who fought dragons made of shadows and monsters made of worry. The knight always won, but he was always exhausted, always carrying his sword, even when the battle was over. The knight should take a nap, Lily interrupted. He's too tired to fight anymore. Maybe you're right, I said softly. Maybe he should. And maybe he should find a friend. Knights shouldn't be alone. My eyes burned. Maybe, I whispered. Good night, princess. Good night, Daddy. I love you to the moon. And back, I finished. Always and back. I ended the call and stood in the darkness for a long moment, letting the rain wash over my face so I could pretend the wetness on my cheeks came from the storm. When I stepped back inside, Rachel had closed her laptop. She sat with her hands folded in her lap, her eyes fixed on some point in the middle distance. Lily, she said quietly. That's a beautiful name. I froze by the glass door. In all my time of working at the company, I had never heard Rachel Bennett make small talk, never heard her acknowledge that her employees had lives outside the office. Thank you, I managed. My wife chose it. She passed away. The question was direct but not unkind. I found myself moving toward the sofa, sinking back into its uncomfortable embrace. It was a car accident. Lily was very young. She doesn't really remember her. Rachel absorbed this information in silence. Then unexpectedly, she spoke again. You raise her alone. My sister helps when she can, but mostly, yeah, it's just us. That must be difficult. I almost laughed. Difficult. Such a small word for something so immense. For the sleepless nights when Lily had nightmares about a mother she couldn't remember. For the school events where I was the only father alone in a sea of couples. For the constant grinding exhaustion of being everything to someone when you had nothing left to give. You get used to it, I said instead. Do you? The question hung in the air between us. I looked at Rachel, really looked at her for the first time. Behind the armor of her position, behind the ice in her voice, I saw something I recognized, loneliness, the same loneliness I saw in my own mirror every morning. No, I admitted. You don't. You just get better at pretending. Rachel's mask cracked just slightly. I wouldn't know about that, the raising children part, I mean. She looked down at her hands. I wouldn't know how to be responsible for someone else's happiness. It's terrifying, I said. Every single day you wake up knowing that this little person depends on you for everything. And if you mess up, you won't. She looked at me, surprised by the certainty in her voice. I've seen your work. The way you approach problems, the care you put into every detail. Someone like that doesn't mess up the things that matter. I didn't know what to say. In all my time, I had received very few compliments from upper management. Both had been followed immediately by requests for more work. What about you? I asked, the words escaping before I could stop them. You have family? Rachel's expression shifted, a shadow passing over her features. My parents divorced when I was young. Neither of them particularly wanted custody. I was an inconvenience to their new lives. I'm sorry. Don't be. It taught me valuable lessons. Her voice hardened slightly. Self-reliance, independence, how to need no one. That sounds lonely. Rachel met my eyes. It is. The rain intensified outside, drumming against the window like 1,000 impatient fingers. In the dim light of the hotel room, the distance between CEO and employee seemed to dissolve, leaving behind just two people carrying wounds they had never shown anyone. "You asked me once why I chose you for this project," Rachel said. "During the meeting, you were the only person in the room who didn't look at me like I was either an obstacle or an opportunity. You looked at me like I was just a person giving a presentation. You are a person. You'd be surprised how many people forget that." She leaned back against the headboard. "In my position, everyone wants something. They smile because they want promotions. They agree because they want favor. I haven't had a genuine conversation in years, maybe longer." I thought about the walls I had built around myself, different from hers, but walls nonetheless. Walls to protect Lily from seeing my pain. Walls to protect myself from hoping for anything beyond survival. "My daughter asked me today if I was ever sad," I said. "She's young. She should be asking about unicorns and ice cream, not whether her father is falling apart." "What did you tell her?" "Nothing. I couldn't." I rubbed my eyes. I still haven't figured out how to be happy without her mother. Some days I wonder if I'm even allowed to try, if moving on means betraying what we had. Rachel was quiet for a moment. "My mother used to say that people who stay stuck in the past are just afraid of the future." Was she right? Probably. She was also cruel and absent and completely unqualified to give advice on emotions. A ghost of a smile crossed Rachel's lips. "But even broken clocks are right twice a day." I found myself smiling too, a real smile, small but genuine. My wife used to say that. We talked until the rain stopped. Not about work or projects or reports, but about fear and loneliness and the weight of carrying worlds on our shoulders. About the masks we wore and the price of wearing them. Nothing happened that night. No kiss, no crossed lines, just two wounded people finally seen by someone who understood. Morning light cut through the curtains. I woke on the sofa, my neck stiff, my back aching. Rachel was already up, dressed in her CEO armor, her makeup perfect, and her walls fully reconstructed. "We should leave soon," she said, not looking at me. "The meeting starts at the scheduled time." I recognized the shift. The intimacy of the night had been filed away, locked behind the same professional facade she wore to boardrooms. I understood I had my own armor to put back on. "Last night," I started, "was colleagues passing time during a storm." Rachel's voice was crisp. "Nothing more." I nodded slowly. "Of course." We completed the Denver trip in professional silence. The meeting was a success. The Ellison account signed, securing significant value for the company. Rachel was brilliant, commanding, untouchable. I provided support without overstepping, professional without being cold. But neither of us looked the other in the eye. A week later, I sat at my desk trying to focus on a spreadsheet that had lost all meaning. The whispers had started. "Did you hear? They shared a hotel room, one bed." I heard it from accounting. "How do you think he really got this assignment?" Robert Klein had found the expense report. One room, two names, one night. The CFO had made sure everyone knew. His concern dressed up as casual conversation. I felt the eyes on me everywhere I went. In meetings, in the elevator, in the break room where conversation stopped when I entered. I had worked hard to build a reputation on merit. One night had reduced it to rubble. The summons to Rachel's office came one afternoon. I walked the familiar corridor feeling like a man approaching his own execution. Rachel sat behind her desk, her face unreadable. "Close the door." I did. "I want to promote you," she said without preamble. "Team lead position effective immediately." I stared at her. "You can't be serious. Your performance on the Ellison project was exceptional. You've earned this." "That's not how people will see it." I remained standing, my hands clenched at my sides. They already think I got this assignment because of what happened in that hotel room. Rachel's voice was sharp. Nothing happened. It doesn't matter what happened. It matters what people believe. I felt something breaking inside me. I have a daughter, a young girl who will grow up hearing stories about her father. I will not let those stories be about how I slept my way to a promotion. I can't accept it. The words came out harder than I intended. I won't. Not like this. Rachel's composure cracked just for a moment. Something like hurt flickered in her eyes before the ice returned. Fine, she said quietly, if that's your decision. I turned and walked out, the door clicking shut behind me with a sound like a coffin closing. That night, I came home to find Lily waiting by the window, her nose pressed against the glass. Daddy, she ran to me, wrapping her arms around my legs. I knelt down and held her tight, breathing in the smell of her shampoo, feeling her small heart beating against my chest. You look sad, Lily said, pulling back to study my face. Your eyes look like when Mommy went away. The words hit me like a physical blow. I had spent years trying to protect her from my grief, and she had seen through me all along. I'm okay, baby. You always say that. Lily touched my cheek with her small hand. But I don't think it's true. I carried her to the couch and sat with her in my lap, the television dark, the house quiet. Daddy made a mistake, I whispered into her hair. I've been so busy trying to be a good father that I forgot to be happy, and now you're growing up watching someone who's just surviving. What's surviving mean? It means not really living, just getting through each day. Lily was quiet for a moment, then she said, maybe you need a friend, like the knight in the story. I closed my eyes, out of the mouths of babes. Maybe, I said, but Daddy doesn't know how to do that anymore. I can teach you, Lily offered. Making friends is easy, you just have to be brave and say hi. I held my daughter tighter, wondering when she had become wiser than me, wondering if I would ever learn to take my own advice. The advice I wove into bedtime stories about knights who were allowed to rest, who were allowed to find companions, who were allowed to be happy, wondering if it was already too late. Rachel Bennett sat alone in her corner office. The building had emptied hours ago. She hadn't turned on the lights. The darkness felt appropriate. Her laptop glowed on the desk, displaying an email from the board about the Ellison deal. Another victory. She closed the laptop, and the room fell into shadow. Some time had passed since that night in the hotel room. Some time since she had heard my voice through the glass door, telling my daughter a story about a tired night. Sometime since someone had looked at her and seen something other than a title. Rachel pulled out her phone and scrolled through her contacts. Hundreds of names, not a single person she could call just to talk. She thought about what I had said that night. You get used to it. You just get better at pretending. She had been pretending for a long time, since her parents' divorce, since the day she learned that love was just another word for leverage, that people left when you became inconvenient. She had built an empire out of that lesson, an empire of success and solitude. And now, sitting in the dark, she realized she had won everything and gained nothing. The following weekend, Rachel found herself in a neighborhood she had no business visiting. The park was near her place, one of those small green spaces tucked between residential streets, the kind of place families gathered. She told herself she was just walking, getting exercise, clearing her head. She recognized me immediately. I sat on a bench near the swings, watching Lily pump her legs higher and higher into the air. I looked exhausted, the kind of bone-deep weariness that no amount of sleep could cure. I was smiling, but it was the smile she had seen in the office. Professional, practiced, hollow. Higher, Daddy, Lily called out. I rose from the bench and walked behind the swing, giving my daughter gentle pushes. Rachel watched me force my expression into something approaching joy. watched me try to be present when everything about my posture screamed that I was drowning. "You're doing it wrong," Lily announced, dragging her feet to stop the swing. "What do you mean?" "Your smile. It's the fake one again." Lily turned around on the swing to face me. "You're smiling like you're sad inside." I knelt down to meet my daughter's eyes. Rachel couldn't hear what I said, but she saw my shoulders shake. She saw Lily reach out and pat my cheek with her small hand, comforting me when it should have been the other way around. A young girl carrying the weight of her father's grief because he refused to share it with anyone else. Rachel understood then what she had to do. Monday morning, Rachel called an emergency meeting of the executive board. Robert Klein arrived last, his expression smug, clearly expecting another opportunity to undermine her. "I'll keep this brief," Rachel began, standing at the head of the table. "Effective immediately, I'm implementing several changes. First, Brian Thompson is being transferred to the Western Regional Division under Margaret Collins's supervision." Robert's eyes narrowed. "Running from the scandal?" Rachel ignored him. "Second, Mr. Thompson will be evaluated for promotion based on standard performance metrics over the next period. His performance will be assessed by his new department head with no input from me." "Convenient," Robert muttered. Rachel turned to face him directly. "Which brings me to my third point. I'm requesting a formal investigation into the source of certain rumors that have circulated through this company. Rumors that originated from confidential expense reports." The color drained from Robert's face. "I don't know what you're talking about." "The expense report from the Denver trip was filed under sealed accounts." Rachel's voice was ice. "Only 3 people had access, myself, the CFO, and the accounting director. I didn't leak it. Patricia in accounting has been with this company for a long time without a single complaint. That leaves you." Robert sputtered. "This is ridiculous. You can't possibly—" "I'm not finished." Rachel placed both hands on the table, leaning forward. "You've spent these weeks destroying the reputation of an employee who has given this company years of exemplary service. You did it because he threatened your comfortable position, because I chose him over your hand-picked candidate, because you couldn't stand the idea that someone might advance based on merit instead of politics." The room had gone silent. The other board members watched with expressions ranging from shock to barely concealed satisfaction. "Robert Klein, you are suspended pending a full HR investigation into your conduct." Rachel straightened. "Please surrender your access badge to security on your way out." Robert's face contorted with rage. "You're making a mistake. The board won't stand for this." Rachel looked around the table. No one spoke in his defense. "Goodbye, Robert." Sometime later, I received my promotion. Team lead of the Western Regional Marketing Division. The announcement came through official channels approved by Margaret Collins based entirely on my performance metrics. No one could question it. No one could whisper that I hadn't earned it. I was sitting in a coffee shop near the office, celebrating alone with a cup that had gone cold. When Rachel walked through the door, she looked different outside the office. Softer somehow, dressed in jeans and a simple sweater, her hair loose around her shoulders. She spotted me and walked over with a hesitation I had never seen from her before. "Is this seat taken?" I stared at her. "I don't think that's a good idea. You're not my employee anymore." Rachel pulled out the chair across from me and sat down. "Different department, different reporting structure, I made sure of it." "I know, I heard about what you did." I wrapped my hands around my cold cup. The investigation, Robert's suspension, all of it. He deserved worse. Maybe. I finally met her eyes. "Why did you do it?" Rachel was quiet for a moment, her fingers tracing patterns on the table. "I saw you at the park a few weeks ago, you and Lily." I tensed. "You were there?" "I wasn't following you. I live nearby. I was just—" She searched for the right words. "I saw her ask you to smile. I saw you try, and I realized that we're both doing the same thing, carrying everything alone because we're too scared to let anyone help." "Rachel, I don't know how to do this." The words came out in a rush, as if she had been holding them back. "I don't know how to be a partner. I don't even know how to be a friend." The last time I let someone get close, I was young and they chose their new families over me. She took a breath. But I want to learn if you'll let me. I thought about Lily's words. Maybe you need a friend. Making friends is easy. You just have to be brave and say hi. I've spent years trying to be enough for my daughter, I said slowly. Being both parents, being everything. And somewhere along the way, I convinced myself that wanting anything for myself would mean taking something away from her. And now I have a little girl who's worried about whether her father is happy. My voice cracked. She shouldn't have to carry that, and I can't keep pretending that surviving is the same as living. Rachel reached across the table and covered my hand with hers. Her touch was tentative, uncertain, the touch of someone who had forgotten how to reach for another person. I can't promise I won't mess this up, she said quietly. I probably will multiple times. I looked at her hand on mine, at this woman who had torn down barriers to give me a fair chance, who had confronted her own board to defend my name, who sat across from me now, stripped of armor, asking for nothing but permission to try. Lily wants to meet the person who tells stories, I said. Rachel's lips curved into a smile. I'm terrible at stories. She'll love that. 1 month later, Rachel knocked on my front door with a bottle of wine and a fear she couldn't name. I opened it wearing an apron dusted with flour, and for a moment we just looked at each other. She's been asking about you all day, I said, stepping aside to let her in. The apartment was small but warm. Children's drawings covered the refrigerator. Toys were scattered across the living room floor with the beautiful chaos of a home that was actually lived in. Lily appeared from the hallway, her eyes widening when she saw Rachel. You're the lady from Daddy's work. I'm Rachel. She knelt down to Lily's height. And you must be the princess from the stories. Lily giggled. Daddy told you about those? He did. He said you're braver than any knight. Dinner was simple. Pasta with homemade sauce, garlic bread that was slightly burned on the edges, a salad that Lily picked at suspiciously. We talked about school and cartoons and whether dragons were real. Rachel listened more than she spoke, watching the easy rhythm between father and daughter, feeling like an observer of something precious. After dinner, Lily tugged on Rachel's sleeve. Can you tell me a bedtime story? Rachel looked at me helplessly. I'm not very good at making things up. That's okay, Lily said matter-of-factly. Daddy can help you. He helps me with everything. We sat together on Lily's bed, the three of us. Rachel stumbled through a story about a queen who had forgotten how to smile and a little princess who taught her by making funny faces. It was clumsy and awkward and nothing like my polished tales. Lily loved it. Your turn, Daddy, she demanded when Rachel finished. You have to smile now. A real one. I looked at my daughter, at Rachel, sitting on the edge of the bed with flour still on her sweater from helping me cook, at this strange, fragile, beautiful thing we were building together. And I smiled. Not the tired smile, not the professional smile, not the smile I wore like armor to hide the breaking underneath. The real one. Lily's face lit up. That's it? That's the one from the pictures with Mommy. I pulled her into a hug, and over my daughter's shoulder, I met Rachel's eyes. She was crying silently, her mascara smudging in ways the CEO of Wellington Associates would never have allowed. Thank you, I mouthed. She shook her head. Thank you. Outside, the spring rain began to fall. The same rain that had stranded us in a hotel room months ago, but this time we weren't trapped. We were exactly where we were supposed to be. Love doesn't come to save us. It comes to remind us that we deserve to be saved, even when we've forgotten. Standing here today, looking back at that one stormy night that changed everything, the biggest lesson I learned is that the walls we build to protect ourselves often end up trapping us in loneliness. After losing my wife, I spent years being strong for my daughter Lily, smiling through the pain, while hiding how broken I really felt inside. I thought vulnerability was a weakness, especially in a tough corporate world where one wrong move could cost you everything. But that night in the hotel room with Rachel, when two guarded people finally dropped their masks and shared their real stories, I discovered something powerful. True healing begins the moment you let someone see the real you. It's scary as hell, but that genuine connection reminded me that we're not meant to carry our burdens alone. My little girl taught me that real smiles come back when we find the courage to open our hearts again. If you're watching this and you've been pretending to be okay for far too long, I want you to know it's never too late to let someone in. Love doesn't always come in the ways we expect, but it always comes to remind us that we deserve to be saved, even when we've forgotten how to save ourselves. What about you? Have you ever had a moment where opening up changed your life? Drop it in the comments and tell me where in the world you're tuning in from today. We love seeing how these stories reach every corner. And if this one touched your heart, hit that like button, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe for more stories that feel like a warm hug on a tough day. Your support means everything.